back to Unleash. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. I've been trying to make this video all week, and it's been very difficult to get around and be able to do it. And that makes me think that it's something that I do need to talk on, because I find in many situations when I'm having the hardest time trying to speak on something, it's exactly what everybody needs to hear. So I'm going to try and work my way through this. What I'm going to discuss here, the whys of so many questions out there, especially right now, what's going on. I'm going to go over something that I've addressed before and that I thought would help people, but I know it went straight over everybody's head. So I'm going to break this down, hopefully in a way that makes more sense and answers a lot of whys and why people make the decisions they are and stuff like that. And you're going to discover that it's not so much as what they believe as it is as much as a consequence, actually, for what they're believing in. And I'm going to break down and just kind of go through this real fast, and hopefully this gives you guys a better understanding. But anyways, the vaccine stuff that's going on right now, and the people pushing it. I'm watching all your favorite preachers all over, from Omar Safari out of Israel, Jack Hibbs, Franklin Graham. All of these bigwigs that people put so much faith and trust in are pushing people to take this vaccine, right? While YouTuber teachers that I hounded on so many times for teaching falsely or taking things out of scripture and not doing it right, even they are smart enough, most of them, to know to stay clear away from the vaccine because of what's happening. Yet the most renowned and paid pastors are doing just the opposite. All right. And it really shows the level of what people are putting their trust and faith in, which they should have never done in the first place. Your relationship's to be with God and to have a personal relationship. And if you have that, if you're holding tight to it, you won't be deceived by this stuff at all. There won't be any questions. You'll know instantly because you're walking with God. And so many people are writing, and saying, I've read it, I've heard it, I've seen it all over the place. My preacher told me it was okay, so we got our vaccine. And they're looking for any excuse to actually to cover their own fear. They're looking for an excuse, a go-ahead, because they're afraid on something that, if they would have looked into in the first place, is nothing that they need to be worrying about anyways. And they're just living through fear. And in the same time, making a deal with death. And that's what I think this is, honestly. I think it is death. The very same death spoken of inside the tribulation that works with the four horsemen. I think when this thing gets activated and it goes into the numbers that it does, the price, the reason for it, that people will be punished by death, was because of their fear that they made a deal with it. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And it literally is everywhere. It's mind-blowing to watch the dumbfoundness of it and how people don't understand it. And I'm talking about family members and stuff like that. I've told so many people, stay the heck away from this thing. And you literally will hear comments like, well, I know people that got the vaccination, they're not dead, so what does that mean? The question is how could you even ask a question like that and understand that is the equivalent of Adam and Eve saying, hey, we ate the fruit that God said you would surely die from and we're not dead. Or lighting a cannon fuse and standing in front of it doing a little dance saying, hey, look, I didn't die. The second I lit the fuse, it didn't explode in my face. As the fuse ticks down and blows your head clean off. I mean, it really is that simple of a concept. The second that anybody gets injected with this thing, it starts reproducing at an exponential rate through each cell and turns the body on itself, creating new viruses and cells that it's creating to work against it, and the body is fighting on. And depending on how well your immune system is, is the timeline. It's the length of the fuse for each of those person. If you have a bad, weakened immune system that can't fight very well, you're going to die faster. If yours is stronger and better, you might last about 12 months out. But the second you have taken this thing, you've already made a deal with death. You're already dead. And people have no idea that that's going to happen. And most of them, it all gets back, honestly, it all gets back to the whole Bible thing and not believing it. If they did, they would know there's a dark agenda out there, a group of people that work with Satan and have every intention of killing people. But since they don't believe in the Bible, they're paying a consequence for that. And this is all around what we're going to be discussing in this video. They don't know. So they think it's a conspiracy that anybody would be working with Satan, or let alone trying to kill them. So the government's out for their own benefit, and everything the government gives them is going to help them and save them, which of course is a complete lie. And they're going to pay the ultimate price for that. And what was that price? Where did that stem from? From not having a relationship with God, not believing in Him, not reading the Bible, and knowing what's coming. The same as those that don't see the rapture coming or know that it's coming, and those that are looking for the Lord, walking with Him like they're supposed to, see it's clear as day. I don't see how it could even go on any longer. And I've stated this more times than not. But I want to get down into the very deepest of whys on why things are, why people can't see it, why people are post-tribbers and mid-tribbers and stuff like that. And I'm going to give you guys a better idea on this, hopefully. And I've tried to do this before. I wanted to give this to you as a gift. And I presented it before, and I just went over everybody's head. And that might mean because it's not something you can use. It's something that I can use very easily because of discernment and stuff like that I have, but I don't know if it's something that everybody else can use. So I'm going to break it down even more, down to the very fundamental part of it, and give you guys an idea on why certain family members, people you talk to, friends and stuff like that, choose the way they are. And is it really their choice, or is it something that they're paying the price for because of something darker and something else that they're into that's actually wrong? All right. When we get to heaven, all our whys are going to be answered. Why this? Why that? All right. And most of the time in life, that is the big question on stuff like that. We might know where and when and stuff like that, but it's why. Why? Why are we here? Why did this happen this way? Why did this person go this way? And why is this the way that it is? Why? So many. It's one of the biggest, most unanswered questions. And people struggle with it. I mean, even I have my questions and stuff like that. Why? And this is going to be answered when we're with God. It totally is. And it's something that we can look forward to. It's really going to put things in perspective. And you're going to see the awesomeness of His choices and how hard He actually fought for everybody. And He has been the whole time. He has a set of rules that are so extreme, it seems like, no sin or anything like that we can't be around. And we think, why? Can you just slip or let it slide? And yet, in the presence of God, sin comes apart at the seams. It can't even be in His presence, and He knows this. So He has to come up with a way so He can bring the creation that He loves into His presence. He has to wipe this away. And through fundamentals and things that we don't understand, with multiple dimensions that fill into ours, we don't quite comprehend the whole blood covering and things like that, and where it stemmed from, what it's made from, what it's created, and how it flows into this dimension we live in. It would seem kind of crazy at a time, but these questions of why and how that works will be answered later on. But He is always looking. All right? And for His situation, how do I bring this creation in? But they can't be around me because they will literally explode. They will die from having the sin in their life. How can I cover this? How can I make it go away? All the way to the point where He sends Himself, His only Son, to die for us, to cover for that. All right? And it shows God working behind the scenes at all times. He's always fighting. He's always reaching out. If He can see any good in any heart, anywhere, He will fight. He will send somebody to that. He will send a message. He's always searching. He's always fighting for those. And why people hate and scorn and go after Him, they have no idea what He's doing behind the scenes. And they should have trusted Him the whole time, that He's fighting for you at all times to bring you around. Even when you're going through the hardest times and it seems unfair. God, I lost my house. God, I lost my job. only to find out if you were to go down that road or to continue to go down that road, that it would have pulled you away from him and you would be spending eternity in hell. And though it seems tough right now, you should have trusted in him and his plan. Let me give you an example. A father loses his son, 17 years old. The kid actually loved God, and he was with some friends, gets into a car wreck and dies. Why, God, why? He loved you. I had so many plans for him. Things were going absolutely great. Screw this. I'm turning from God. I don't want to follow him anymore, right? And we can turn back the hand of time and look at this situation. What happened in this car wreck? Oh, he's hanging out with some friends from school. The kid does love God. That's really good. You know what? He did die, but he's in heaven. But let's play this out as he didn't die. We look at these friends. Ooh, a new one gets introduced. They start hanging out, but he's got a little bit of bad influence. Not long after this, about 5 months after, all right, if time would have continued on, he gets introduced to meth. And out of a crazy drunk party idea, he decides to try it once. In this process, he gets hooked on it, all right? As he grows deeper and deeper into it, and his life starts falling apart to the point that he completely leaves God and has nothing to do with him. Where, a year and a half later, he ends up dying, unsaved, and burns forever in hell. No way out of this, no way to change the situation. However, by dying a year and a half prior to this, while being a Christian in an accident that the father knows nothing about of where it was going to stem to, the boy is saved and he goes to heaven, and God knew this. And he decided to take him home early, in saving him from making the worst mistake ever, where he would be burning in hell forever. And instead of the father trusting that situation, even though the hardship, he decides to curse God and turn away from him, not realizing that God was looking out for his son the whole time and bringing him home before he made the worst mistake of his life, all right? That's just an example, okay? This kind of stuff happens all the time, and people are left with these whys and these questions and stuff like that, and they don't have a clue, or even try to, what God's doing. When God always has your best interest in mind, he's always looking out, doing whatever he can to bring you, fulfill you, trim you in the way that he needs to bring fulfillment, all right? And make you the absolute best he can, because he has the best things for you, all right? And he wants that to happen, but you have to trust in him, all right? Let's break this down into some more. And I want to talk about post-tribbers and things like that. So you talk to people all the time, and you know, they tell you that they're a Christian, and they believe the same thing as you, but they're into a mid-trib idea or a post-trib idea. And you're thinking, man, why can't I get through to them? This doesn't make any sense. All right, why? Well, I'm going to answer that right now, okay? And I'm going to take you back. I'm going to go over what I discussed before, okay? 2018. The Flat Earth Movement. Very first video I did. I cannot stand the Flat Earth Movement. To see that kind of stupidity is mind-blowing. I literally just had to block somebody the other day who was talking, and the last thing they said was, there's absolutely no proof that we live on a sphere. This is not a globe. There's no proof. That was the last comment they said before I blasted them off. And you wonder, you know, how can somebody get to be this blind? How can they get to be this stupid? And what they don't realize is it's not as much as their mind or their choice, but it is a consequence. And I'm going to break this down for you right now. 2018, I was in the desert, all right? This was the second time that I had heard from God this year, and I shared this before. Prior to this time, I had went on the internet watching flat earthers, trying to get to the bottom of this whole thing, right? And I watched one of their conventions. And in the convention, I looked into the spirit, and I could see that each one of them, off the corner of the backside of their head, was what looked like a little white puffy cloud of smoke. Never seen this before. I didn't know what I was looking at or what I was seeing. I'm like, this is so mysterious. What is this? As I watched one flat earther getting interviewed at this convention. And I'm like, this is crazy. There's something on the back of their head. What am I seeing here? And does this have something to do with them being flat earthers? Maybe I'm onto something here, right? And it went on, and they all had it. And I couldn't figure it out. And then it got to another lady, and I didn't see it on her. And I'm like, well, so much for that. I thought I was coming up with something here. And the lady starts to get interviewed, and they're asking her why she's there. And she says, well, I actually don't believe in flat earth. I just want to see what these people are talking about. And And so I came here to the convention to listen to what they had to say. And I'm like, how interesting. So the lady doesn't believe in it. She doesn't have that cloud. Then it went back to some more, and they all had the cloud, and they all believed in the flat earth. And I'm like, what is going on here? What am I seeing? And then it got to the main guy, a guy I'd never heard of before at the time, and I didn't know anything about it. The little ringleader, his name was Rob Skiba. And on the back of his head wasn't a little cloud of smoke. The whole back of the head looked like it was wrapped in it. It was way thicker, way deeper, way worse. I'm like, what is going on with this guy? I'm like, maybe it's because he's the leader or something like that. This doesn't make any sense to me. So I watched it, and then that was the end of it. And I was asking, why? What was I seeing, God? What were you showing me here? No answer. So time goes on. Right, and this was maybe a year or so before I got this word. And in the desert, the first time that I had to go without a home for a while I was sitting out there, I was praying and talking to him. It's just me and God. And while I was there, this was the second time, and it was around May or so of 2018. I felt like I got bumped into from the left, and I got answered right on the spot. They're under a curse, and my eyes were. I'm like, oh, wow, is that what's going on here? And instantly the verses in my mind, because they loved false doctrine and things like that, I allowed them to fall under a curse, a strong delusion. And I'm like, and instantly I think back to the clouds, and I'm like, is that what I was seeing on the back of their heads? Is that what a curse looks like in the spirit? Is that what I was showing? I'm like, unbelievable. And I'm like, well, what would they be believing in that would allow them to be in a curse, and the curse being flat earth in the first place, their belief? So I went back and I found Rob Skiba. Lo and behold, as I've shared before, huge anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-Jew teacher, all right, while claiming to be a Christian. I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, now it makes more sense than ever. And as I watched their followers, and many of them, all the same way, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, right? And I'm like, that's it. That's what it is. The consequence for their belief. I'm like, wow, the dangers of being anti-Semitic, or what Romans 14 warns about, you know, how we're grafted in and how they're set aside for a time, but they're the main branch. And if you play against that, if you try to replace it, how much easier can we be thrown out? All right? It's a strong warning coming from Paul in Romans 14, okay? And I said to myself, wow, this is absolutely crazy. And this was the very first taste that I got of this, of these consequences, being able to see it. And it's only stemmed into exactly what we're talking about right here, right? That was the foundational part of it. And as time grew, I started to discover that behind every single thought or idea that was false was actually a thread that goes back to a beginning, a fundamental flaw in their belief in Christianity and what's biblical scripture. I didn't know what to call it, but I likened it to a thread. Where there is a thread that's missing in one spot, you will pull this and it will pop out in another spot. There's always two ends to it, okay? And if you find two or three or whatever else, there's always another end. There's multiple mistakes in other areas. I didn't know what to call this. And as I sat there trying to make the video on this for the first time, called Threads, I'm like, what can I call it, God? What can I call it? He put into my mind deceit. And that is why I started calling it Threads of Deceit. I'm like, okay, that sounds really good, actually, the Threads of Deceit. And that is exactly what they are, the Threads of Deceit. Fundamental flaws in teaching and belief in Christianity, biblical. Not somebody who's against you, not somebody who doesn't agree with you, all right? Just because you come up with a crazy idea and they don't agree with you, that's not the Threads of Deceit, all right? The Threads of Deceit are fundamental flaws and belief fallacies in scriptural teaching and the basis of Christianity, all right, when that goes against it. And these will set you off into areas that have deadly, absolutely, extremely, even hell-bound consequences, okay? Same with flat earthers, right? They're made to look the fool to the world. And their eyes cannot even be open to this unless they get to the source of the problem, which in many of their cases is anti-Semitism, okay? Or others. I've also seen flat earthers that aren't anti-Semitic. And they say, oh, we don't have a problem with this, we're Christians. But they are lying. They are hiding something that is a fundamental belief somewhere in there. and they are paying the consequence for this, okay? And this stems into everything, all right? Everywhere, all right? From false teachings and false beliefs. Inside the comments, you will hear all the time people talking, I'm a Christian, all right? These people are lying to you, all right? When I tell you I'm a Christian right from the start, I am open completely. I am non-denominational. I have nothing to do with the church system. I believe the Word of God. I read it out of my King James Bible, okay? When I'm trying to interpret something to people, sometimes might use another reference or something like that has more of an English taste, so you can get the understanding that I'm talking about. But other than that, my relationship with God is personal, and this is how I follow, right? This is open. I'm not into some kooky beliefs or anything like that. I believe exactly what he says out of there, all right? Others will tell you the same thing while they hide behind they're actually Seventh-day Adventists, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, they're Mormons, and they will tell you they're exactly the same as you, that they're Christians, okay? They're lying to your face. And some of them have a fundamental belief in this, and then they stemmed away from it, got into the world, and now they've lightly come back to Christianity, but behind their profile, their pictures, okay, that they have on YouTube or other things or comment sections they talk to, they put themselves out to be Christians, that you can trust them and their reasons they believe, and they're false teachers 100%, and they're out to deceive you, and they do it all the time, all right? And their beliefs that they have, it's not actually what you're seeing. It's their future consequence being played out in the present right now. Many of you don't understand the timelines of things that we're talking about. Many of the things that I'm talking to you right now, I'm not actually talking to you right now. This is a message that I'm implanting in you for later on when you're asking that why, and I'm answering it now. But if I didn't say it now, it wouldn't be in your mind later, okay? You don't understand the timeline and how this thing's working, and the presence of the future in the present time as well, okay? And I try to plan this as much so that when it comes to that point, when you are left behind and things like that, because it's going to happen on such a prevalent level you can't even possibly imagine, you will have the answers. All right? Many of the people out there that are pushing for post-trib rapture, post-trib ideas, all this, and they will slay you, they will kill you, they will threaten to kill you, all right? Because they're planning to go through, and that's the way it is, and they're saying how much they love God, and by believing in pre-trib or whatever else that you're not or anything like that. And the absolute second, all right, that the rapture happens and they realize it, the first thing that they will do is go, why, God? Why did you leave me? I don't understand. I was out cursing and prosecuting and coming after anybody that believed in you and that you said that you were going to take us. I don't understand. Why did you leave me behind? As they say and they want and they wish to go into the tribulation of the post. And that's the very first thing that they will say. All right? And it's sick. Okay, really, it's sick because they will even have the nerve to say why when it's so obvious in front of their face. And the tribulation will be the slap in their face. I don't know if everybody's veil is going to be removed. It would be nice to think that they do, and hopefully they do. It'll be the mirror that will instantly be revealed in the face. This is why you're in the tribulation, okay? And this is your last chance to fix it up. But until then, many of these people are already seated in the plane that they're taking when this whole thing kicks off. Some are going to heaven. Most are going into the tribulation, okay? All right? So, let me play out an example here. You're saying to yourself right now, okay, my neighbor that I've been arguing with forever, who tells me he's a Christian, but I mean, we only talk about it once in a while, has a post-trib belief. And you're telling me that that's not actually his belief, it's his consequence? Wow, that's deep, man. So he has a fundamental flaw in his Christian belief, and it's not actually something he believes, it's a consequence that he is going to experience in the future, but it's playing out now as a belief in the present time. Wow, that's really deep, Unleashing. Can this be vetted? Yes, it can. All right. So you've talked to your neighbor, right? And you can't get through him no matter what. He's post-trib believer, okay? And you're like, dude, what is going on here? It's like, you know what? I'm going to test what the Unleashing's talking about right now. I'm going to see if this is real. Maybe there's something that I can find a clue to it. He says he's a Christian. He says he's just like me, but I believe in pre-trib rapture. It's what the Bible says or whatever else. Let's go. Let's see what's going to happen. You know what? I'm going to follow him. Oh, I can't do it during the workday. I'll have to wait till this weekend. So the weekend comes around as you watch your neighbor. And early that morning, he decides to take off. So you're like, you know what? I'm getting in my car. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to see where he goes. I'm going to see everything that he's about. And you follow him down the road, and he's driving, blah, blah. Where are you going to? The hardware store? No, not the hardware store. Maybe breakfast? No, not breakfast. As he pulls into the Seventh-day Adventist church. Wait a minute. He said he was a Christian. What's he doing at the Seventh-day Adventist church? All right? You just got your answer, and you didn't even realize it. Okay, Seventh-day Adventist believes in post-tribulation rapture, but is it their belief or is it their consequence? Like every other Christian-based religion that has completely been falsified, they all have taken the Word of God and brought it into the interpretation of somebody, and then instead of believing God, they're listening to the interpretation as the Word of God from those people. And Seventh-day Adventist was Ellen G. White, and Joseph Smith in Mormonism, and Jehovah's Witnesses are so batty that it's unbelievable, but the same with their scenario, okay, as well. And they've twisted it around, and their very consequences are their belief, okay? And their idea that they're going to be going through the rapture and everything like that, or through the tribulation, and the rapture is not to the end. When, of course, you break down the Bible scriptures themselves, and it clearly explains that, okay, like I've said before, and I can do it again really fast, all right? The fourth horseman takes a quarter of the Earth's population. We're about 8 billion when this thing kicks off. That's 2 billion people, all right, taken out. The sixth trumpet, before you get to the seventh, which is just after the halfway point of the tribulation, so we're only looking 3.5 years in the tribulation, all right? There's another 1/3. Well, if 2 billion people have already been taken out, that leaves, out of 8 billion, that's 6 billion. 2/3, or another 1/3 out of that is another 2 billion. So we're looking at 4 billion people right there. That's not counting worldwide earthquake, asteroids hitting the ocean, everything else. You could be looking at another 2 billion there. So you're looking at 5 to 6 billion people, all right, 5 to 6 eighths out of the Earth's population are already dead by the halfway point, okay, before it even kicks off. And the angel mentions in Revelation 14, blessed are they that have died in the Lord up to this point, okay? Then you get to the end. The hour, you're kept from it, that Jesus speaks of in Revelation 3:10, none of that, even makes any sense anymore, okay? And it's uncomprehendable to them, all right? Then you got the Jehovah's Witnesses that think that the 144,000, only 144,000 out of the entire Bible get saved, And everybody else that still follows, and they've already picked out who they go. They're the high-ranking members who pay the most money and stuff like that. They're buying their way into heaven. The same thing as Mormonism, based on sex and money. And they are literally buying their way into it. Those who have given the most to the church are getting the higher calling. Those who have, got married in the temple and so forth and so on. And they've created their own religion. And these religions have deadly consequences, which is hell, okay? But those that look and have more of an idea of things, they're still making those mistakes. So what is the fundamental flaw of Seventh-day Adventism? All right. So what would be one of the fundamental flaws of Seventh-day Adventism? Works-based salvation, the law that they think they are following. Okay, that was given to separate the Jews from the rest of the world, then brought into fruition through Jesus Christ. That you couldn't fulfill all of them. Showing the absolute perfection you have to have, but it's not enough. But through Jesus that we can be saved, and our rest is in Him. All right. They think that by going to their church building on Saturday, they're fulfilling and doing what they're supposed to, and then also following the laws of God or whatever else. And this isn't the case at all. That is a works-based salvation. They're literally built off of following this. All right. And the separation between the law and sin and grace, all right? The law was the Judeo laws that they had, the Mosaic laws that they had, all right, that they were supposed to follow for certain things, all right? And that is not required for us anymore. And it's pointed this out in Acts 15, okay? Don't try to put this on them. We're not even bound to this anymore. And the Jews themselves are saying this, and it's like, the Gentiles will be good with not eating strangled meat, food offered to idols, drinking blood, and fornication, right? That's basically what you need to know. and that our rest is in Jesus, okay? I think that's one of the best interpretations of it that we can get. And when I break this down, looking at it, on taking rest and honoring the Sabbath and stuff like that, I am not building up for this world. I am not working my ass off all the time, 7 days a week, so that I can build up to a retirement plan and stuff like that. That is not where my heart is. My heart is in heaven. It belongs with the Lord. And so I work for what I need and the things that, at that time to get by, but it is not my heart's desire. It's not where I'm at. And so every time I do get time off or a break, whenever that is, I'm always joyous of it, and I always thank the Lord for it because it's absolutely great, and my rest is in Him, all right? And that's the point. And to bring it out even more further, all right, Jesus never sinned, right, at all. And we know that He's absolutely perfect and never did any of the 10 commandments that were bad. Yet, on the Sabbath day that they say, not supposed to be working and everything else, Jesus is out healing the blind and raising the dead and everything else that He went out of the way to do. And we know that He doesn't sin, and He's out doing that. So is He sinning? The answer obviously is no. But their interpretation of it, that's where the problem comes in, okay? He wasn't, and he makes the point that man was not built for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath for man, all right? To give them that rest, okay? And that is why, when they try to say, that it's a sin or whatever not to do it, and the consequences, they've made a terrible mistake. They're not keeping the laws or anything of it. They're actually putting themselves under a curse. And that's exactly what they're doing. And then they're blind to the rest of the truths. Next thing you know, they think that they're going through the tribulation, all right? And then the rapture happens at the end, and you can't get this idea through to them. And they believe that wholeheartedly, and yet the fundamental problem is they've taken the teaching of the Word of God from somebody who's interpreted it, Ellen G. White, and they've turned that into their gospel, as many as the other religions that have done this, from Watchtower through Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons and the Book of Joseph Smith and everything else that they have, all right? And they've created essentially another religion, and they've taken the truth of God and they've smeared it and added things to it and stuff like that, and He's adding to them the plagues and the trouble that He warns that will happen if you do that, okay? These are curses they've put themselves under, and therefore the things that they actually think that they're believing in are actually their consequences being played out as a belief that they have. And until they get that right, they will not be able to figure it out, okay? Let's say all of a sudden they realize, well, this is wrong. What we're doing is wrong, and I'm going to get out of this, all right? They will find all of a sudden that veil removed from their eyes and be like, wow, why didn't I see this before? The same way as Jesus telling Daniel to shut the book up because it's not for his time. And millions of people, maybe billions, I'd say billions of people have read the Bible since that time. And only now does it decide to unlock itself. Because God's timing, the way that He can do that and hide things away are absolutely perfect. And if you are in something that's false and you're trying to manually claw your way out, you're not going to do it. The only way to get out of that is to go to God. That's the only way that you can actually get out of that situation. He's the only one that can pull you out of that darkness and that curse. And if you don't do that, you might not be able to see it at all, no matter how much you hear me or somebody else warn you of that sort of thing, okay? And, I got a letter here the other day from Jehovah's Witnesses, actually, and I actually decided to keep it around just so I could read it to you guys really fast. Dear neighbor, I'm writing to you today to invite you and your household to a special online event that will be attended by millions of people worldwide. It is the anniversary of Jesus' death. My family and I are eagerly anticipating this occasion. This year, the memorial is being held at the online March 27th at 7 p.m. It will last for about an hour and a half. Also, there will be a special talk Sunday on March 21st at 10 a.m. Have you found a pearl of high value? To learn how you can connect to these events, call. Hope this letter finds you and all your loved ones doing well, and you'll be able to attend this most important event. Let me go over that again. It is the anniversary of Jesus' death. Let us celebrate it, okay? You know who else was celebrating Jesus' death? The demons and Satan, okay? The absolute retardation of what they just wrote there shows how far off base they actually are. Instead of celebrating the resurrection, what separates Jesus from anybody else, any other teacher or anything like that, actually being God, coming back from the dead, well, they don't want to have anything to do with that. They're celebrating his death. It's absolutely an abomination, okay? They're so far gone on every single level, it's almost not even worth talking about, okay? Mormonism, all right? The same thing. They have a what's the word for that? That's not atonement. It's it'll come to me in a second. All right. It's an amillennial idea, right? That they believe that there is no rapture or anything like that, but Jesus just shows up at a time, and then things will get all whatever. And until that time, they're supposed to, be living their way or whatever else. Of course, they have always taught within their teaching, that they need to have a pantry ready and everything else for a certain amount of time to what? Go through the tribulation or through tribulations and stuff like that, all right? And if this angel was telling them the truth, Joseph Smith and stuff like that, it would be to tell them that they're going to be leaving out before that, not going through it. And it shows the falsehood of it right there, because, those that are walking with God aren't going through the tribulation. We get raptured out before the whole thing happens, okay? But these are just a couple examples of religions and things like that, okay? But let's take it further, all right? Let's look at people that are mid-tribbers, all right, and these ideas, all right, where it would stem from, why you can't get through to them, okay? And what you're going to discover is most of the time with this situation, they are replacement theologists, okay? Religious teachings that have replaced the Jews with the church, that the Jews no longer have a place anymore. And when you look in Scripture and you see what the Jews would be doing during the tribulation, the 144,000 and such, you discover that, since the Jews aren't doing it anymore, that must be the church, all right? And we're the 144,000. So their belief in a mid-trib rapture idea is actually a consequence of replacement theology, something yet again warned about in Romans 14, okay? And they're getting that played out in their consequence, okay? This can stem into multiple different things on the beliefs, so-called beliefs that people have. And it happens all the time when you talk to them, and they don't even realize that they can't open their mind to it, okay? 14-year tribulation, all right? There's another one. Or 3.5, the Steve Quayle idea. Behind each of these ideas of 3.5 years and everything like that, while the Bible clearly says it's 7 years, and it makes the point that Jesus fulfilled it down to the day, and you can look into timelines from the time Artaxerxes signs the work for Israel to be built all the way to when Jesus writes in, breaking down the days, 360 days, years, 173,880 days perfectly, 69 weeks of the time being fulfilled, absolutely perfect, leaving only 7 years. You wonder how these people can say there's only a 3.5-year tribulation or there's a 14-year. Both of those don't even line up to what we have in Scripture. Well, is it their belief or is it their consequence? And that's the point that I'm making. It's their consequence. This is the why. This is the why for all of it, okay? This is why they don't know. This is why they're blind to it. They are paying a heavy price. It is a curse that they've put on themselves through false teaching, whatever it is. And sometimes it's the same thing. Maybe it's anti-Semitic. Maybe they've taken something out in the wrong place, or they've replaced the Jews, all right? And you can see this all over the place. Look at True News with... I can't think of the guy's name that runs True News. Just hugely anti-Semitic. What does he believe in? Post-tribulation rapture. All right? Is that his belief or is his consequences? He's replaced the Jews. He hates the Jews. Can't stand them. And he Rick Wiles. And he puts on a front like he does. And he's paying a consequence that he doesn't even realize. He's going to be thrown into the tribulation. He's going to be made to kneel at the feet of the real ones eventually. All right? And to be made to look the idiot. And if he clears it up in time, if he gets it right, if he repents, he can come around to this, okay? People do it all the time, though. Like I say, they go to these churches, and the church tries to tell them, hey, you replace the Jews. And you start discovering when you talk to them, they're big into mid-trib rapture ideas. And you can't get them out of it, all right? This is their consequence. First of all, they went to a preacher who's teaching them instead of going straight to God and having that personal relationship, all right? And it starts to pay a price very fastly. It can happen, all right? And it is their consequence from the future that they're going to experience being played out in their present belief at the time, all right? This is the threads of deceit, okay? And, I can go multiple different ways on this. Steve Quayle's 3.5 years. Why would he believe that it's 3.5 years when he knows so many things that are right? Where's this fundamental flaw coming in at, right? What else does Steve Quayle teach? I love Steve Quayle, by the way. I think he's done great work and he's busted his ass, all right? But he's wrong in this area. Why is he wrong in this area? What has he done? Well, he's a huge proponent in gap theory, all right? That we've been around for millions of years. There's an evolutionary process, and only recently has this stuff happened. And all the thousands of years before, millions of years before, it was all taking place. All right, this is a fundamental flaw in what God teaches of the 6,000-year creation. It really is. And I already told you how he did it with time. He folded it out from the middle. It goes both ways. This is why in the garden, on the earth, you can have trees the size of the one in Wyoming, Devil's Tower, a petrified one, or full trees. If you were to cut those trees down, how far back do the rings go? Who knows? But time went both ways, okay? He really did create it 6,000 years ago. I've made this point plenty of times, all right? And we can find this in math and all the other things, including like population decrease and stuff like that, that lines up with the Bible, okay? How can you make this mistake, which seems so simple? Enter the consequence for teaching that to millions of people, okay? And people actually starting to buy into it and not trusting in God that he can do it in 6,000 years. Next thing you know, you believe in a 3.5-year tribulation, all right? And you're made to look the fool when the seventh trumpet blows after the two witnesses and they go for 1,260 days, which is over 3.5 years, and you're only through the trumpets and the vials, not even getting into the bowl judgments yet, showing that there's still more time that would be even after 3.5 years. Why can't you see it? Why are you blind to it? They've blinded themselves to it, okay? Look at Steven Anderson. The guy spews so much hate, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just absolute filth. I can't stand the teaching that was going around for him. Just hate everybody and everything, all right? Yet again, fundamental flaws in teaching. And within Bible teaching, what does he believe in? What does he teach others? Post-tribulation rapture. Is that his belief or is it his consequence? It's his consequence, okay? Now let's get into stuff that's a little bit more new. The vaccine, all right? The very thing that we're dealing with right now, the vaccine. How can people be so blind to something that is so obvious that the second you take it, you're already dead? It's already going to happen. All right? It's just another level of the threads of deceit, okay? These people have bought into fear, all right? They've put on a front of loving God and trusting in him, and when it's gotten down to the wire, these big preachers, Franklin Graham, Amar Safari, all these guys, okay, that have put this on, they have folded to fear. They have made a deal with death or political leaders to push it. And it is the church preachers that are doing exactly what they signed up to do a long time ago for their 501c3s and everything else, that they would push for government and they would push it away from God, that their savior isn't Jesus, it is the government, all right? And whether this will bind them from going to heaven, I do not know. I would not want to play around with it, okay? But even if it doesn't, they've already paid a price. They've cut their life off, and they have made a deal with death, all right? And this is going to happen, all right? You don't shut it off. It doesn't take that much research to see what's going on. The second you inject it, there is no shutting it off. Your own cells through your DNA have now got a signal which will never shut off. It's going to keep producing and producing and producing toxins that your body is fighting against it, and viruses. And when your body can no longer fight it because it's the wave has overcome, like the same way HIV works, the same way that I told you, like the video that they took down about it, because I was obviously making a point here, it will literally turn on itself and you die, okay? There's no shutting off. Your organs will shut down and everything else. This is a timeline that can go from the very first day that people get it, and the thousands of people who have already died the very day that they get it, or their second dose, up to 12 to 14 months. Because there's no turning off, and the number of people that have got it around the planet, this looks exactly like death. And we already know that we're in that time. We already know that it's close anyways. And knowing that this kicks off within that time, which will also line up when the tribulation starts, it's why I say this can't go on any further, all right? It looks like an absolute red smoking gun that the tribulation starts this year and the rapture is going to happen, okay? For those people that have done this, They've shown their colors. They've taken the path of fear. They've taken the choice of the coward. And that is warned about in the Bible many times from God. He does not like it. All right, we're to trust him. It's not easy. We have no idea what's going to happen. This is probably the last video I'm making in this house. I have to leave at the end of the month. I told God, if he didn't give me a job by that time, that I would go out. But this is his plan. I work for him. And I'm going to have to go live in the wilderness again, all right? And yeah, it is nice to take a hot shower and to be comfortable and things like that. But I go where God sends me. I do what he asks me to do, and I trust in him. And it is scary, okay? But this is why my story will be legend, and others is just, I gave in and I just died. Amounts to nothing, okay? When you walk with him, that is the stories of legend. That's the stuff that you read about, that you want to know about, that's inspiring, okay? And you trust where he takes you and how this plays out, okay? You don't give into it. And if you're trusting him, if you're walking with him like you're supposed to, all this stuff is revealed to you, all right? In whatever way that happens. Maybe you just stumble upon. Maybe you're praying to him right now and then you stumble upon this video. Who knows? Okay, but he will always make a way because he's always fighting for you. He's always looking for you. If your heart's in the right place, he will fight for you, and he always has. And he will make a way, and it's something that you can trust him in. That's why I said we're about to have our Red Sea moment. When you start getting pushed up, the worldwide situation we're in now, where we're getting pushed up against the wall, he is going to make a way. There's tons of Israelis and Jews and people around the world who are not going to take the vaccine, and they're starting to make it more mandatory, right? That means your flying's done, okay? And the preachers that are pushing this and twisting this around saying, I've heard it from so many. There's another one, I can't think of his name right now. I'm having the worst time with names. But, I've heard him say a lot of stuff before that's really good, and yet at the same time, I've heard him say stuff before that begs into question, like how can you be this slow? One of them before was speaking about the Shroud of Turin, all right? And I've pointed this out before. The negative imagery that's on that took 34 trillion watts to create. And they can date this back 2,000 years anyways, okay? They didn't even have electricity back then, let alone 34 trillion watts, okay? You know how long that takes? All of the energy on the earth, every factory, nuclear, electric power plant that there is, and they record this and keep data of. In 2017, because each more every year as things blow up, they produce more, it produces more. But in 2017, it takes 2 hours for the whole Earth combined, 2 hours straight, to create 34 trillion watts. This was created in the tomb on the cloth, the Shroud of Turin. All right, there is no faking it. Nobody created it. It couldn't even be done. And it's dated back to that time. And yet, he says it's a fake. How could somebody do that when it's so clearly obvious? And then yet at the same time, he's also teaching his congregation, him and his wife are going to take the vaccine because they have a missionary trip that's coming up in the fall. And why would God punish them for doing that since they're going to do a missionary work? Half the time I see these missionary trips, they look more like cruise trips. They're not going out and suffering, all right? They have a paid vacation where they get to go relax, and when he shows up, they can talk to him about God. Total cakewalk. And they play it out like it's a hard thing and they're going to go do something hard as they've had all the money raised for them to go do it. And they get to go off on a vacation, okay? And they have these things planned. And what's really at the heart of it is they have a vacation planned, all right? Well, they're posing as doing God's work, and now that could be interrupted if they don't have the vaccine. So we better get our vaccine, and we need a good excuse for it for folding under the pressure. So we're going to say, well, this is what God would want because these people need a missionary too. And like I usually do, I take it to the extreme, and then you can work your way back just in case you don't quite get what I'm saying. We're in the tribulation, let's say, and now we have to go missionary to somebody, but the only way to fly is to have the mark of the beast. Well, God will understand because we have to go do missionary work. I guess we'll all take the mark of the beast. He won't damn us to hell like he says that we will, and there's no escape from it. Are you kidding me? Of course he will. He'll do exactly what he says. So the missionary trip is off. You've had 2,000 years. The world knows who Jesus is at this point, all right? The point is completely clear. He has perfect timing. He knows that, all right? If we can't fly that way or we can't get to him, we can pray that somebody else does, and the people that do, God will make a way. That mission's over with, all right? It's the same way right now, right? You do not take the vaccine because it's easier, it goes along with your vacation plans or anything like that. You do not make a deal with death or you will pay the very price for that. Why do people do that? Why do they not see it? They don't want to see it, all right? And the very foundation of it gets back to what I'm saying. There's a thread of deceit. There's something, a fundamental flaw within what they're doing, what they've made a deal with, where their heart is truly at, that God sees and knows, okay? And because of that, they are paying a price in a belief or a decision that they make, okay? If you're really walking with God 100%, if you're fully committed, even if you don't know, and you're stumbling, all right, he will still find a way. How can this be slightly changed? Well, if you're a new Christian in a lot of ways. Like I said, I've made the example before. You're sitting at your house, you want to believe in God, but you wish you had somebody to lead you in prayer. Two guys knock on the door, you answer the door, hey, we're at the Mormon temple. What? Okay. I want to ask Jesus in a heart. They go, hey, why don't you come back to our church? That's the first thing they want to do, right? They want to smuggle you into the lies and the deceit. No, I don't want to go to the church. I just want to ask Jesus in my heart. You guys think you can help me? While they're praying to a completely different Jesus, what's on the heart of the non-believer has nothing to do with them. He wants to actually ask Jesus into his heart. All right? Is he saved? Yeah, absolutely. Okay? Because it's where his heart's at. And if we were to actually go with them and see that they're teaching something false because he started reading the Bible, he's going to walk away from it. He's going to make that right choice. He's going to make that decision. Okay? And in situations like that, all right, the new believer comes in, he just read the Bible, he doesn't quite understand, hasn't figured out the rapture yet, and maybe he thinks that it's a post-trib rapture, okay? But he loves God no matter what, he's willing to die for him. And it would be totally awesome if you were to learn or hear about the rapture being pre-trib. And then all of a sudden the rapture happens at that time. Is he going? Absolutely, okay? All right, he hasn't even got to the foundational part to be messed up on this or anything like that. He loves God more than anything. He's given that commitment, and now it's a joyous surprise. It's not a joyous surprise for those who have made a deal, all right, to go into the end. They're mad about it. They don't want to go, all right, like I say, but then they will be complaining the very first second, okay? That's the only time where this would be slightly different, all right, and a different belief is because they're not actually believing something different. They just haven't come to it yet, okay? And there's ground for that. There is an acceptance of that. There's an overlook. That's fine and acceptable, okay? But if you get into it and you've made decision after false belief and teaching, all right, and to go the wrong way, there is a consequence for that. Many people that I talk to, that I want to understand, all right? A lot of times because, we all get a free chance, but if you've gotten so many free chances that you've passed it up, a lot of times you have to go through the crucible, okay? Many people don't realize what people have gone through, especially here in America. Last night I was watching, it was late at night, and some videos just popped up on my YouTube, and I watched them, and it was a couple different women. One was out of Iran, one was out of Kuwait or Saudi Arabia area. And they were talking about how they grew up with a Muslim family and stuff like that, and how they found Jesus. And it was so absolutely incredible to see how they had so much passion and love for him, and they couldn't wait to get baptized and devote their life and to read the Bible. It was sacred to them to read the words and stuff like that. And they're risking their life and showing their face and stuff like that, but they would happily do it. Unlike the people on YouTube that talk such a big game and they're hiding behind fake profile names and no face pictures or anything like that, ready to run at the first sound of any persecution or anything like that, talking such a big game and don't actually have a clue about anything at all. Like you've actually fooled me or anything like that. I mean, I already know, like you said, the messages that I'm giving you right now, most of you isn't for right now. It's something that you'll remember, but not yet. It doesn't play its part until later when you are left behind, and that is your choice, all right? And it's not easy to hear, but that was your choice the whole time. But to watch these people appreciate it so much, it takes such a passion to it, as I think about the Americans that I talk to, all right, they're just vile filth. You still haven't even got baptized. You won't make the commitment for God, and it is a sacred honor for these people where they've been persecuted and they can lose their life. They've watched people get their heads chopped off and everything else, and they gladly will give their life for Jesus, and they have that commitment for it. It was incredible to see. And here in old America, people won't even lift a finger. I lost my house, I lost my girlfriend. God, I won't have a price. God takes your girlfriend away that you're sleeping without a marriage to actually help you out in a situation. And, God, I'm turning from you, it's too hard, I can't handle it, You've seen exactly how much you can handle, and that you do have a price on every end. And people wonder why they don't have gifts, special abilities that God will freely give if you're not bought off by them. And yet people do it all the time. They get bought off all the time, right? Look at every single watchwoman there is out there. Every single one, all right? The second they get a dream that's even remotely, possibly has anything to do with anything prevalent, oh, they lose their minds instantly. Now they're sorcerers of some sorts, and they're just totally, exploding with power and everything like that. And they come to me because they're awesome and everything else. And I mean, it's just bought out with power every single time. And they've seen they're leading people astray and stuff like that. They're fundamentally screwing up right from the start. And these fundamental flaws, biblical beliefs and things like that, have consequences, all right? And this is your why, all right? This is the very why of why the way things are right now, okay? All right? But people, they don't want to, they're not as excited about it. I don't see the rapture coming, all right? Let me tell you exactly what's in their heart. They still love the world. Okay, they're still planning things. All right, this gets down right into the very fact of my own family. Okay, and my older brother. Okay, they might say it on the outside, but they're still planning for retirement and other things like that. They don't even want to look at the way the world is right now. Excuse me, that's my coffee maker going off. And all right, this is in households and everything all around us all the time. And these are the whys. This is the why, all right? Do these people make it? Will they be left behind? All right, if they don't see it, if they don't know it, there's a very good possibility, a good chance that what you're seeing play out is their future consequence in the belief that they're sharing right now. And that might be why they can't see the rapture happening right now, or why they think that it's years off, all right? What they're actually seeing is what they want to take place because they're still planning their future. When somebody says, oh, I still think it'd be 20, 30 years off, all right? I'm willing to bet they're in their mid to late 40s or 50s, and what they're building it around is their life that they still want, and when they've already perceived in their mind when they think that they would die of old age, and then just before they do, that's when they expect the rapture to happen. They're built it completely around their own belief. All right? That's happening all the time. This is the why. This is why you will find people that are taking the vaccine that don't know, that have beliefs in certain things and on. These are consequences that are playing out. This is the threads of deceit. This is what I was trying to bring to you before and show you. And it's everywhere. It's all around us, all right? And this hopefully will answer these questions. And it's not easy to hear, all right? All right? If this is knocking on a door in your life, go to God. That's the only way that you can be healed from this, all right? You go to Him and you ask for repentance from Him. And if you're sincere about it, He will pull that veil from you. But if not, you might be finding yourself about to play out in a very consequence that you think you believe, but actually it's not a belief at all. It's actually your consequence, okay? This is a very serious thing. It's very deep. You've never heard it anywhere, ever before, all right, from any of your teachers out there, all right, because they do not know, because they have not heard it, all right? I have got to see the why, all right? I've got to be shown from God Himself, all right? And I'm bringing this out to you. I'm here to answer this. And I'll answer all the questions that I possibly can in the time that I have. It's not easy. I do get annoyed with this, all right? It's very difficult, but I'm not doing this because I want to or because I get anything. I was asked by God to do this, and I pray before each video, that He would speak through me in the way that He wants to get the message out. And this is very, very deep conversation here, okay? And it might seem a little strange and different. Like I say, you've never heard it before. But if you apply to what I'm talking about, it will answer your questions more often than not, all right? And you will get your whys on why people believe the way that they do. And I'm telling you, it is their consequences that they actually believe in a fundamental flaw within the scriptural belief of Christianity that they have taken and ran with it, and it's actually going to fail them later on, okay? So hopefully this really answers some questions. Like I say, it's a very deep topic. You've never heard anything like it before, and I have talked about it before, but it went right over everybody's head. And I don't know if it's something that you can always use. It's something that I can use with the abilities I have. It's just another counterpart that plays. It's another asset that plays with the abilities I use. It just makes the answer faster and faster for me on why the way people are. Should I even bother talking to them, or are they already set to go into their persecution that they've chosen for themselves? And, a lot of times they do. But this might answer questions with family members and things like that you have, and you're wondering why. And it gets down to the heart. It really does. The very heart of the matter within the person and within their belief. And this is the reason why. This is the why answers that you're looking for, all right? All right, hopefully this helps. And this is probably the last time I do a video in this house. I don't know if I'll be able to do one I don't know how many more I'm going to be able to do anyways before this whole thing kicks off, but I will when I get a chance, and if it helps. But God bless. See you next time on the Leash, and I'll see you in the air. All right, take care. Bye.